Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. So today, we are diving into something absolutely fascinating. Have you ever stopped to wonder how a single, fleeting, literally microscopic thought in someone's head can actually scale up into this massive, macroscopic legacy, a legacy that totally outlasts them? How does a tiny idea transform into a concrete, permanent institution? Well, that is exactly what we're unpacking today, and we're going to do it through the lens of a really incredible framework called the Hiro University Theory of Human Development. We're going to trace the exact architecture of this entire journey. Let's get right into it.
Now, to be clear right off the bat, the Hiro University theory isn't just another vague, feel-good motivational quotes or standard self-help advice. Not at all. It is a rigid, step-by-step developmental architecture. It's an actual sequential chain of human development. Think of it like a master architectural blueprint that logically traces the whole journey from your most private individual thought all the way to a deeply enduring institutional legacy that fundamentally impacts the world.
To make sense of this massive chain, we're going to break it down into a few main parts today. First, we'll look at the overall human development architecture. Then, Phase 1, which is the internal self. Phase 2, external impact. And Phase 3, enduring legacy. And finally, we'll wrap up with why this goes way beyond just your basic motivational speaking. All right, starting off with Part 1, the Human Development Architecture, where we'll be tracing the master chain. We're going to look at the complete master formula here before we break it down into its core pieces. Okay, here's the entire pathway from start to finish. It maps out a journey that kicks off with a simple thought, moves right through identity and character, builds outward into your capability, value, and relationships, opens up opportunity, and then finally culminates in systems, institutions, and a permanent legacy. Look, if you ever want to understand how any great founder, leader, or historical figure built something that actually lasts, this is the whiteboard map they followed. Whether they consciously realized it or not, this is the exact sequence. Moving right along to Part 2, Phase 1, the internal self, and building the foundation. See, this grand architecture doesn't actually start in some fancy boardroom. It starts incredibly small and incredibly intimately, right inside your own mind. Let's focus in on the first 4 links in this chain: thought, identity, character, and capability. The absolutely crucial thing to understand here is that these mechanisms happen entirely within you. We are talking about deep, personal habits. No one else can do this part for you. This is the inner work. So, let's break down the logic between these internal steps. The baseline truth of this whole theory is that thought changes identity. This is literally where it all begins. A thought isn't just some passing notion. It is the absolute first, microscopic building block of everything else. When you hold on to a specific thought, it begins to fundamentally alter how you view yourself. It actually changes who you are at your very core. And so, how does that new identity manifest? Well, simply put, identity informs behavior. Basically, who you believe you are dictates what you do every day. But here is the kicker. When you repeat that behavior over and over again, it hardens. It solidifies into character. Your character isn't some mystical, unchangeable trait. It's literally just the sum total of the behaviors driven by your new identity. It's almost a mathematical formula. And that leads us to the final internal threshold in this phase. Character plus knowledge develop capability. You see, you've built your character through repeated behavior, right? And now you add knowledge to that foundation. The fusion of those two elements, your character and your knowledge, is exactly what creates raw internal capability. This is your potential. It is the engine you meticulously built inside yourself, fully fueled up and ready to go. Before we move on to the next phase, I want you to just pause and ask yourself, where are you on this chain right now? Have you solidified your character? Have you gained the knowledge needed to build real capability? And, maybe most importantly, how does your internal capability actually interact with the outside world? Because, just keeping all that potential locked inside, that isn't enough. We have to cross the threshold. And that brings us right into Section 3, Phase 2, External Impact, or as I like to call it, the snowball effect. This is the exciting part where your internal traits finally make contact with reality and really begin to accelerate. In this second phase of the chain, we see that value leads to relationships, which then opens up opportunity and finally yields resources. This is the cascading effect of taking your hard-won capability and putting it out there into the world. It operates exactly like a snowball rolling down a steep hill, just gathering more mass and momentum the further it goes. Here is the crucial bridge between your internal and external worlds. capability creates value. Look, internal capability is completely useless in a vacuum. It really is. The only way it actually matters is if you use it to create tangible, real-world value for other people. This is the critical step where you finally transition from just doing self-development to actually making a worldly impact.
Now, once you start generating that value, the next phase kicks in pretty much automatically. Value creates relationships and reputation. High-quality value acts as an irresistible magnet. It really does. When you consistently provide it, you naturally draw in strong, meaningful relationships and build a rock-solid reputation in your field. People are just naturally drawn to those who can genuinely deliver on their promises.
And here is where the snowball effect rapidly accelerates. Relationships expose opportunity, and in turn, opportunity produces resources. Your network of relationships inevitably unlocks doors that were completely hidden from you before, and when you walk through those new doors of opportunity, they yield tangible resources. We're talking capital, talent, time, technology, whatever you need to take things to the absolute next level.
Moving into Section 4, Phase 3, Enduring Legacy, or Macroscopic Permanence. Let's actually slow down for a second here, because this is where we transition from merely achieving personal success to building something with immense gravity and absolute permanence. The final architecture of this entire theory lies in these three massive elements: systems, institutions, and legacy. Getting here requires a total shift in mindset. At this stage, you are no longer just an individual producing resources. Instead, you are now using those resources to create immovable, lasting structures that operate completely independently of you.
The pathway to that kind of permanence looks exactly like this. Resources can build systems, and those systems can become institutions. Remember all those resources you gathered back in Phase 2? Well, they are simply your raw materials now. You use them to build self-sustaining systems, and over time, as those systems prove their resilience and their necessity to society, they harden into permanent institutions.
And this right here is the ultimate core realization of the entire framework. Institutions transmit value beyond the founder, and that becomes legacy. Let that sink in. True legacy isn't just about people remembering your name. No, legacy is achieved only when the value creation mechanism you built can survive and thrive without you there to run it. When the institution outlasts the original thinker, that is when the master chain is finally complete.
Which brings us to our final section, Part 5, Beyond Motivational Speaking, and looking at the final architecture. We've just traced the sheer staggering scale of this journey, starting from a single, invisible thought all the way up to a permanent, self-sustaining institution.
The source text for this theory summarizes the whole thing absolutely perfectly. It says, that's not motivational speaking anymore. That's a theory of human development. And they hit the nail on the head. This is a rigorous, structured philosophy. It's a definitive, highly logical pathway where every single step is a strict prerequisite for the one that follows. It takes all the mystery out of greatness and replaces it with clear, actionable architecture that anyone can understand.
So, I want to leave you with one final, provocative thought to consider right now. What microscopic thought will you focus on today to begin architecting your own macroscopic legacy? Because, as we've seen, literally every massive institution standing in the world right now started with just a single thought that changed someone's identity. The blueprint is right there in front of you. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to start building your own chain today.